go. He didn't play the intro.
What's up, faithful? Welcome to the East Coast Red and Gold podcast. I'm Niners Jess, along with Ty Alston, Maddie B, and your girl Bex. It is Wednesday, April 23rd. We are officially 1 day away from the NFL draft. It is finally here.
Mother of pearl, hallelujah.
Yes, what he said.
How are you guys doing?
Doing good.
You know,
It's
surviving.
All right. Well, before we get to our special guest, we are brought to you by Faithful Gear. Get your customized Niners gear at faithfulgear209.com and tell Robert that we sent you. Again, it's faithfulgear209.com. All right. So let's bring on our special guest. We got our resident draft expert, Steph Sanchez.
What up, Steph?
Welcome.
That's not a
Welcome
bad
back.
intro. Draft expert. I like it.
Welcome back. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me back on. We've done this for like the last 2 years, right before the draft. So it's nice to come back on and talk draft.
Yeah, like I said, it's 1 day away. I think whoever the Niners pick, I'm ready for all the backlash of some of the faithful being upset and and all that fun stuff. But before we get to who they're going to pick and whether we trade back or trade up, who would you avoid drafting?
All right. So I'm just going to narrow it down from the list of players that have been linked to the 49ers. Because in reality, I mean, there's probably a lot of guys that I wouldn't want the 49ers to draft. But I think one player that I'd want them to avoid is Shemar Stewart. And I understand the high upside, but there's also, I think, a big risk and a big projection. John Lynch talking about you don't want to get too deep into projections, that could hurt you in the end. And we've seen that play out several times in the NFL where, teams are attracted by a player having these traits, and they get the googly eyes for these guys and these traits, their athleticism. They come into the NFL thinking we're going to be able to build this guy into the player we want them to be. And, more often than not, it does not happen. So that would just be my one cautionary player, I guess, for the 49ers, which, ultimately it sounds like he could very well be one of the picks, right? And so in true faithful fashion, I will probably talk myself into whoever they pick, including Shemar Stewart at some point, but I'm not going to love it. Out of all the top options that I've seen linked to them, that's probably the one that I'll have a harder time trying to get there and justify.
Are you comparing him to like Brussels sprouts? Like you'll eat it, but damn it, you're not going to like it. Like, is that really what it boils down to?
You're going to need some ketchup on that, Matt.
I need some dressing on that because I don't know what he's going to be. And neither do the 49ers because we didn't see it in college. So we can't say he's going to be this and be confident about that, right? And, to an extent, you can say that about a lot of players. But I think this is one where if you didn't see it in college, it's just hard to get there at the next level. It could happen, so I don't want to discount that. But it's going to need a lot of dressing.
On a ranch.
A little ranch, yeah. Some
balsamic vinegar. As a kid.
Now I'm hungry.
Cool
Throw it in the air fryer, man. Now I'm hungry.
Yeah. So, Maddie? What do you think? Who do we avoid?
That's the first one right there that to me I don't know so much that you avoid it. I really like the Ziggy Ansah comparison for him. Just in terms of athleticism, you know, Chris Kacherik being able to do his thing, right? Like, and him having that history already with getting the best out of a guy when you can do that. So, but it doesn't always work, right? Sometimes you end up with. Here's the deal. Here's what I hope we avoid. Like, it's not so much a specific player, but I think the thing that I want to avoid is we just come out of this with like, okay, we got another rotational defensive line guy, right? I will lose my mind if we just end up with another rotational defensive line guy, right? Like, it's just, you shouldn't be this high in the first place, right? So, like, you
True.
really hope that you maximize the impact that you have when you're up here. You know what I mean? Grandma gave you birthday money and, like, you went to the casino. So, like, you're laying a little bit more at the slots, right? Is really what it boils down to. So, when you're up here, like, you really want to win that free spin, right? You really want to get something out of this, right? Because if not, you're going right back down to the penny slots here really quick. So that's kind of the way I look at this, like maximize that impact. And I just think if they're patient, honestly, like look at the 10 teams ahead of them. Come on. There's a little bit of dysfunction there, just a slight bit of dysfunction from top all the way to bottom, right? Like you already have a team that's already got a bunch of coaches that are going to try to like retrofit a guy into their scheme that doesn't really fit it already. Can't wait to see how that works out. Spoiler, it won't. So like there's so many things from like top to bottom, 1 to 10, that's just gonna be nuts. I think they can't go wrong if they get like the best guy that fits their board available. They said they've got 21st round picks. One of them should be there, right? Like, and it should be one that they feel good about without having to move back on or anything like that. So we'll see how it goes, but I can't. I'll lose it if it's just another. Well, they got another guy for a rotational defensive end piece. Please, for the love of God, get Nick Bosa some help. Please.
Yeah, I agree. We need a starter. Ty, what do you think?
I'm not a draft guru. I don't know nothing about none of these guys. Could bump into them on the street and wouldn't know who they are. So for me, this draft is all about the strategy. How are they drafting? Are they drafting for immediate need? Is it future considerations, etc.? That's all I'm looking for. That's all I got.
Becca,
I'm not going to sit here and lie to you.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Oh, well, no, I tend to think like what we did last year with getting those guys with the extra play time was a really great thing. We saw the output on the field. So I don't think they'll step too far away from that because it worked. It worked really well. So I think the guys with a lot of play time and some long in the tooth, history there are going to be more attractive, and I don't know, was it Matt or Ty who said get Nick Bosa help? Get Nick Bosa some help. We need a good edge rusher. So if we got a guy that can come off the board who's proven himself on the field and, he's got a lot of quality playtime in college, I can see that being an attractive pick. There's a couple guys and I'm not I suck at the draft. Every time I go, oh, this guy there. I mean, maybe twice I've gotten it right. So I've resigned to the fact that they know more than me and I'm okay with that. And I'll trust the process. But I think that, we're totally going defense on some level. And whether they take a cornerback, an edge rusher, someone on the defense who can really, really add some quality and yes, be a starter. That's what we're looking for. We need pieces to plug in and step up and do their job immediately.
Yeah, McNiner wants the trenches. And
I think so, yeah.
I definitely agree. We're at pick 11. Steph, are you picking for need or are you picking for the best player available?
I think I'm picking for some needs at pick 11 at the very least. So I'm looking defensive tackle or edge rusher. And the good thing is, like, just the way that this draft is kind of shaped up, it's very possible that that's the best player available on the board anyway for the 49ers. So yeah, that's what I'd be in favor with. I think it's going to work out for them just based on this draft is very heavy on what happens to be the 49ers needs going into it. So yeah, I'm looking at needs, but that's, you know, how I always look at it. And they have a lot of needs, you know, going into this year. Going back to, you know, Shamar Stewart specifically, I think I'd be a little bit more on board with a pick like that if they had other pieces, but they need impact players. You said, Jess, they need starters. You need a day one starter impact player at 11. I don't know if that's Shamar Stewart. If we got to teach him how to pass rush, you know? So like, that's my concern with that one. And then like that, but that's what I'm looking for the 49ers to pick at pick 11, just someone who's going to immediately improve this defense and is going to be on the field.
Ty, what do you think? Need or best player available?
I think I think need, because when you look at D line, we need bodies there, right? But like Matt said, you never know how these things go. That need could be the best player available. Like, two things can be true. And if that works out for us, hallelujah, right? So
yes.
yeah. So you take it. So I'm all for it.
But if the best player available is on the board, do you take that and then use that as, you know, capital to make a trade or something?
Maddie, what do you think?
Yeah.
I've heard throughout this process over and over and over again, there's no difference between 50. There's not much difference between 15 and 50 over and over. And it seems like in the last, I want to say 2 weeks, it has really become, well, there's a top 5 and then there's a top 10 and then there's 15 to 50, right? Like, that's what it really seems to be. And it just seems like they really can't miss. And I just know that someone's going to do something stupid ahead of them that's going to help them eventually, right? Like, you just know that's how it works in this league. Whatever it is,
Yeah.
right? Somebody's going to an owner's going to take control of the draft board. Somebody's going to make a trade and be like, I'm going to trade down. And then they lose the guy that they wanted to get. Like, whatever that might happen, right? Like, it's been for weeks now. Like, look at all these ridiculous mock drafts, which, my goodness, I am so sorry, Steph. I know you probably have to do a ton of these, but like, the energy you have to expend on these mock drafts, my goodness gracious, just for them to genuinely, like, it seems like they like all start off in a certain place. And like, there's 5 or 6 people that usually move up, but like, everybody else ends up right back to where they started from at the very beginning, right? It's this weird game of musical chairs that just goes on for a few months. Because everything just kind of settles down and everybody actually tries to reveal their intentions. It's been really weird this week, just with everything. But to me, it's like, this is one of those deals where like, they have so many needs, they can't help but get a guy that's going to be a need, but can also be the best one available, right? Like, if Ty Warren somehow drops to 11, to me, you still need another tight end in that room, right? That to me is a need. Now, is
I don't
it
want
as
him.
big a need? Is it as big a need as defensive line? Is it something like that?
Right.
Whatever, right? But he's part of that fabulous 5, right? That's your top 5 for a lot of folks. Like, he's your top 5 blue chip. If he falls, so be it. Same thing, like, if some crazy planet weird thing happened and Abdul Carter dropped down that far, right? Like, of course you're going to jump on that guy because that's one of the top 5 that drops down. So to me, I just want to make sure that whoever they get fits and they're not trying to shoehorn somebody in and it's not somebody like one person wins an argument in the draft room. Like I really want it to be like a collaborative effort. And they're like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. This is the guy, and he's impactful, and he gets in people's faces, and he does things that like I don't know, Chris Jones from Kansas City is able to do, right? That's the sort of guy that I would like to see on the line, or again, somebody that can come off the edge and help Nick Bosa get to the quarterback and sack him, or possibly force a hold to be called, because you can't let two people get blatantly held and not call it, right?
Hmm.
Well,
So,
the Chiefs did it, but I digress.
well, I mean, yeah, until last year, and then they were not allowed to do that anymore. So,
Mhm.
Doesn't Abdul Carter have a lot of injuries? Like, doesn't he have like a shoulder, foot,
there's a
knee?
shoulder, there's a foot.
And then shoulders, knees, and
Yeah.
toes, knees, and toes.
You know who else has a lot of injuries? A guy by the name of George Kittle, right? And he tends to play
Oh.
through them, right? Some guys are just beasts and gamers,
Mhm.
and he puts out beast
They
and
show
gamer
up on
vibe to
game
me.
day.
You know what I mean? So,
So Sin wants all 11 picks to make an impact. We can't afford to half step.
there's room for him on that roster too.
Yeah, for sure.
You always want all your picks to make impact. Is
Yeah.
question of will they?
That's the goal.
Yeah.
Steve-O says that I want Mike Green, and he says Tess because when I was
Tess.
on with Larry Kruger and John Lund on Friday, after a few beers, Larry Kruger was calling me Tess instead of Jess.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
that's awesome. That's fast.
I was wondering who Tess was. I was
yeah.
like,
Yeah,
like
I
who's
know.
Tess? I don't
and
know.
I didn't want to correct him because I actually thought it was funny, but yeah, after a few beers, it was
so
Tess
funny.
the rest of the show, and it was a good.
So is
2
that
hours.
your new Vegas name? Because mine's Deborah.
Oh,
People
okay, I could go with
accidentally
Tess.
call
That could
me
be my new
Deborah
Vegas
at
name.
work. So Tess is your Deborah. Nice to meet you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I
Mike-
actually, I would like Walter Nolan.
Mm-hmm.
Steph, what are your
people like
thoughts
that.
on him?
I mean, he was one of my favorites early on in the draft process. Maybe one of the first like players that I even watched that would make sense for the 49ers at 11. And I loved him right away, honestly. And watching him, and then I also watched Mason Graham, of course, who's at top of the draft as well. I came away liking Nolan's game more than I liked Mason Graham's. And maybe it's those particular games that I watched from Nolan. I don't know, but this dude was making plays after play, and if he wasn't making plays, he was getting like triple teamed. Like that's how much respect offenses
impact.
had for him, because that's how much of a disruptor he was if they didn't account for him, right? Which tells me like this is someone that's going to be putting pressure on opposing offenses all throughout the week. They got a game plan around this guy. I just love having a player with that much impact. And I think he's the kind of player who, like I said, can absorb those double teams, but he can also be a penetrator. He could also be good at run stuffing. So man, I think that would be a great pick at 11, honestly, if they choose to go defensive tackle there at 11. Yeah, it's so weird because, so I said that I liked him early in the process. Then I kind of cooled off on him because, there was all this talk about character concerns. And I'm like, well, if there's character concerns, then I'm concerned. And, I don't know if I want the 49ers to pick him, or they probably won't. And then, there's lately been so much more buzz around him with the 49ers. They brought him in for a 30 visit. So I'm like, I started getting back into him being an option again for the 49ers at 11 and just trusting, what I liked about him to begin with, and still feeling like that would be the right thing for the 49ers to do. And so, yeah, I'm right back there. And it seems like the consensus is starting to shift towards him being one of those 3-4 players that keep getting mentioned in the last week with the 49ers. So I can see it. I could see it, and I would love it personally.
Now, I think for a few days, people were mentioning Mike Green. Your thoughts on him?
So I think from, his skill set standpoint, his explosiveness, he would fit what the 49ers need opposite Bosa. I think it would be a phenomenal pairing. I mean, he had 17 sacks in his final season at Marshall, right? Like, big impact guy. He would be able to create things for Bosa, and he would be able to create things for himself, which is important. So, I mean, just from that standpoint, I like him. But I mean, also the off-field questions with him, that's not nothing, right? Like that's something that is serious. And I don't know if the 49ers brought him in for a visit. It sounds like Barrow said that he heard from one person they did, another person said no. So like maybe they did bring him in and they didn't want that really getting out there. Ultimately, maybe they decided, he wasn't going to be on their board due to some of that. But it goes both ways. His coaches speak highly of him. So I don't know. I think, again, just from the player standpoint, not talking about any of the off-field stuff, he'd be a great fit. But, obviously at 11, it's an investment. You got to think about 49ers have to think about all those other things. So hopefully the 49ers have all the context there to make the right decision, whether that is to pick him or not. But I don't think they go that route just based on, what I've heard other people say. It just doesn't seem like he's one of those names. And while the 49ers do surprise us sometimes, I just don't think it'll be with Mike Green.
Kali says that we lost a lot of players. Majority of these rookies are going to have to play. That redshirt mess is out the window. We need hits and less gambles with these picks. Yeah.
I think they'd have more hits that if they actually played some of these players in like the last few years. Like we just never knew what a lot of those players were, and they never got the opportunity.
Loving you so much right now. Oh my God.
That's
that's
one of my biggest gripes, I think, with this team, and I think particularly with Kyle Shanahan, that kind of shortchanges the offense because he doesn't seem as willing to play rookies. And now, he's in a position where he has to again. So I think it'll be good because I think he's going to find that some of these guys are going to have success. Some of these guys are going to learn by playing. They'll be better for it, right? They got to learn through these mistakes. They're going to make them. That's okay because, you pick them for a reason and they have upside for a reason and all this stuff, and they'll figure it out. But you got to give them the opportunity to figure it out, right? So that's why I'm looking forward to the season because I think it'll be nice to see young players and be excited about, just some new blood in the building and seeing what these guys become.
Just to piggyback on that, I agree. We've talked about it here. The young guys need to get on the field. The hope, the wish, and the prayer, I'm hoping and the wishing and the praying, is that last season, the light bulb went off. Like, oh, Dominic Pooney, this guy's pretty good. He's playing and he's getting better as he plays. Isaac Guerendo, okay, a little rough, but he's getting better as he plays. Bernardo Green, same thing, right? Hopefully the light bulb has finally gone off that we've done all this due diligence on these guys. We're drafting them. They're here getting coached up. We got to get them on the field so that it can speed up their development, and it helps us for the long term. So hoping that spills over to this season.
Yeah, I mean, last year's draft I thought it was great. I thought it was one of the better drafts for this regime. And the fact that these guys played is even better. Ken says he doesn't know why people hate Shamar Stewart so much. Steph?
1.5 sacks. That's why. Sorry, Steph.
I like how you turned it to me because
Steph.
Sorry, I didn't want to.
It's not that I hate him. Like, I just, of all the options, the 49ers that I think they'll have there, that is my least favorite. And I think it's my least favorite because it's the biggest risk one of the bigger risks of them all. Again, I understand there is some upside there. There's also a very low floor that you're talking with Shemar Stewart. He may never figure it out. And I'm not a fan of teaching a player their position after drafting them with pick 11 when we have so many other needs. So that's not appealing to me. And it's not appealing to everyone else either. There are some people who are like, hell yeah, like it could be a, big reward and think very optimistically about it. And that's cool, but that's not going to be everyone. So hopefully that helps answer that question.
Wait, real quick. Let me jump in here. Sorry. Because once again, I don't know anything about these guys. So like if you were to pit Stewart versus Michael Williams, I don't even know how to say the kid's name.
Yeah.
The dude from Georgia, he's from Georgia, right?
Yep.
Like
That doesn't really narrow it down though when it comes to Georgia. By the way.
are they both
It's
are they both like a 3-down lineman? Is one just a pass rush specialist? Like what how would you compare those two?
So Michael Williams, I think, has a higher floor because he's maybe one of the best edge setting pass rushers in this class. So that's why, and I actually think of those two players kind of similarly because Michael Williams, his stats are not that much better actually than Shemar Stewart's, but I do see him as having a little more, like he's the safer option of the two. I think if they're kind of similar. Obviously, Shemar Stewart more athletic, and you have that going for you. But Michael Williams, just he could, at the very least, you'd be able to have him out there on base downs. I think immediately, day one. I think that's how he's that good at run defending, and that's something the 49ers need, right? Like, so that's something they can use. That's something immediately he'd be making an impact because they were the worst, one of the worst, if not the worst, run defending team in all of the NFL last year, right? So, Michael, I think he had like 4.5 sacks last 2-3 years or something like that. So, couple more than Shemar Stewart. Yeah, Shemar Stewart had 4.5 his entire college career. And so, Michael I like a little bit more. I'll say this, though. Like, when I watched Michael, I wasn't a huge fan of him either because I came away, noticing other players more. The Georgia's got some dudes, right? Like, that defense, they got a lot of players that a lot of those guys are going to end up getting drafted. Jalen Walker was someone who kept standing out. Like he kept making plays, and I'd end up watching him instead while I was supposed to be watching Michael. But again, I've also watched Shemar Stewart, and it's kind of more of the same. I have concerns about Stewart because his tackling is pretty bad. I think he has the highest missed tackle rate of like any defensive end in this class. It's like 20+%. Like I think it's like 29, 26 or something like that percent missed tackle rate. So he's not a finisher, and it's because he has bad techniques. People wonder, can he bend? Can he change direction? Like those are the concerns. So again, like you can have all this athleticism. You could be a Greek god looking guy on the field, and you could be an Olympian, as far as your athleticism, but that doesn't always translate to being able to do all the football things that you need to do in the NFL. So again, that's my concern. I like Michael Williams a little bit more just for the fact that at the very least, he has that run defense down. And his pass rush is already, I think, better at a better spot right now than it is for Shemar Stewart.
Good info. Thank you.
Hearing you talk about those two players, it kind of puts me in a different direction. Like that's definitely not a good, thing for us. We definitely, as Sin says, we don't need that.
Yeah, I hope John's watching. I hope Kyle right behind you is watching and listening.
I hope so. Now we've been talking about pick 11. A lot of people say that we're not going to trade up. We may move back. What do you think?
I mean, it really all depends what happens in the picks before, which we have no idea what's going to happen, even like a day before the draft. It feels like there's still so much unknowns there. It will really be dependent. Although I think what John Lynch said is accurate. There's more people wanting to move back than there are people interested in moving up. And so I think, I don't think players or teams that are wanting to move up are necessarily looking to do that at 11. But you never know. Maybe there's like a top 10 player that makes it out and is there at 11. Like, let's say, for example, Mason Graham. Hypothetically, like if the 49ers didn't love him as much, and let's just say they liked Walter Nolan more, and Graham is there, he fell out of the top 10, do the 49ers then field some calls and say like, hey, like if you want Mason Graham, come and get him. We're open for business at 11. Hypothetically, like, it could be any player from the top 10 that made it to 11 and they can kind of pose that question. I'm sure they will, right? If it's a player that they don't want, that they're not convicted on, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's how it'll go, but I think ultimately they'll probably stand pat unless something crazy happens. Could also be something crazy that happens that favors them where they do want to stay at pick 11, right? Like maybe they do love Mason Graham and he does fall out of the top 10. They're like, hell yeah, we're not moving. Like this is our dude. You just never know how these things happen. There's talk about teams wanting to move, but none of the trades have happened yet. So I think it's really going to depend on who's there, on the clock. And we'll probably see more trades happen tomorrow when teams are on the clock.
Becca, what do you think?
No, I fully admit that I suck at this every time I think. I spent so many hours, many years trying to figure this stuff out, and it's always wrong. So I appreciate you, Steph, that you take the time to do it. But I do think, you're absolutely right. If someone falls into our lap that we didn't think was going to be there, we're probably going to take the gift horse, not look the gift horse in the mouth and take that little nugget and run with it. But if people are looking to move back and not move up, then we're going to be kind of in that window of, 11, 12-ish, whatever. Somebody might move up a spot or two to take ours, but I think mostly we're picking someone, and whether that's the best person available or our draft crush that we had intended on taking, then that's what we're going to be doing. But I just sit there and go, okay, we'll take that slow clap and do the thing, because I'm always wrong. I'm always wrong on the draft.
Ty, what do you think?
What was the question? Sorry.
Do we trade up, trade down, stay put?
I think we stay put. We haven't drafted high in a while. This is an opportunity to get someone of impact that can, start right away, make a difference right away, at least help, right? Like you have to take advantage of these opportunities when they come. And as much as people like to say our window is closed, I don't think so. I think we're going to be picking very low next year and the year after and the year after that.
Yeah.
So grab a guy who can make some impact now.
Maddie?
Yeah, no, just stop trading. Just stop it. They've already no.
Listen,
They have, like, I don't want to sound like Marcellus Wallace, but they've lost their trading privileges. Okay. Like it's just they're not allowed at this point, right? Like, no. Just sit there and wait, because this is what you probably should have done a couple of years ago. Just wait. It's coming to you. Just let the draft come to you. That's what the best teams do, right? The best ones that are stacked. The ones that always seem to go up and give up too much for the guy that they want never seem to quite get to where they really want to be, right? Like it's the ones who just let the draft come to them. Just let people do what they're going to do. I promise you, they're not going to go 10 for 10 in front of you. I promise they're not going to do that. So they'll trust their board and get somebody there. I mean, if somebody gets super desperate and really wants to move up to 11 for somebody, but like, who? Like,
Yeah.
that was my question for Steph. Like, is there anybody in this draft that is worth mortgaging anything from next year's draft for?
I mean, Abdul Carter, you could maybe say, I would say Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, which, Hunter, generational prospect. That word gets thrown around, but what he's doing, what he's going to do in the NFL, I don't think anyone's really done if he's going to be playing both sides of the ball. But yeah, I would say those two guys maybe, but they'd have to give up, a decent amount to get them. Think about what they gave up for Trey Lance to go from 12 to 3. You're looking at a similar haul. And we know how that turned out. We know how that hurt the 49ers in the long run. And I mean, you said it, like what we're saying with this draft in general in the first round is like the difference between the top of the draft the top of the first round versus the back end of it. It's not too different. So that makes it even less worth it, to make a big move up like that. So I agree. Let the board kind of come to you, let the chips fall where they may, and trust that you're going to get a guy there that will improve your team.
And at least we're not rehabbing ACL injuries anymore.
Yeah, let's not go the Trent Baalke era.
On. Like we're not making those kind of picks anymore. So, kiss it up to God. Like, please let his ACL. Right. Come on.
So Kylie says that the draft isn't top heavy, yet it's deep at many positions. Yeah.
100%.
There aren't
Right.
a lot of 9s and 10s. It's a lot of like 6, 7s, 8s, right? Maybe like 5, 6, 7s. Like if you're looking on a scale of 1 to 10, like these are people who are going to get stabs. A lot of them are going to get second contracts, but it's a matter of who's out there. And these things, everybody says this, and then like, in the 2022 draft, there were no quarterbacks. Well, Brock Purdy came out of that. I'd say he did okay as a quarterback coming out of that draft. So they clearly didn't get anything right in the quarterback section of that draft. So
Jason says this is a great draft to build the foundation of a team.
oh yeah, to attach to last year's. Heck yeah.
Yep. I mean, John Lynch pretty much said like he sees that you could get starters,
You're welcome,
pretty
Mark.
much the whole draft and even into day 3. He sees some starters. I don't know if he's just saying that because it's like, man, we're putting like the future of our team all on this draft. Like, I don't know if he has to kind of feel that way.
Yeah.
But I think he's right. Like there are some pretty deep positions where I think you're going to be able to get really good value. Running back is another one. Defensive tackle we already mentioned. There's going to be some intriguing players, I think, available for the 49ers. And wherever they feel like there's a drop-off, where, maybe you're not going to get an impact guy with your 3 7-round picks or however many they have. Like, you have some room to move up, right? And that way you can ensure at least that you have, guys that are going to have a good chance at starting for your team. But yeah, if they trade up, definitely I think I'd be for it in like the later rounds, not so much the first round.
So Brian Culp wants to know if we're rebuilding.
I don't think so. I mean, if the team was rebuilding, I think we'd see more of a turnover on the offensive side. The offense is largely the same, as
Exactly
they
the
had
same.
last year. If anything, it might be a little better with the addition of Luke Farrell, hopefully, just better blocking there. But other than that, like there's really no difference. So it's a rebuild of the defense, but does that constitute as a rebuild? I don't know. I call it a retooling. So, and it can't be much worse than it was last year, right? Right now they need bodies, but like once you got those bodies in there, the level of play with Robert Saleh, as the coach, I think the bar is low, from last year. So I I'm confident they'll be better than they were last year.
Ty, what do you think?
Well, reloading.
Yeah,
Sure. Yeah.
Reloading the
That's a
ammo.
good one.
Yeah. Pew, pew,
Yeah.
pew.
we addressed this before. We're definitely not rebuilding, and you can't rebuild when you got an MVP caliber quarterback on your team, best linebacker in football, best tight end in football, yada yada yada.
Yes.
We got
Rookie
dudes.
players.
A lot of people
we
left,
got a lot.
but let's not forget most of them were kind of backups and guys who were coming off injury, who we were used to playing without. So we're still good. Like, it's not a rebuild. Some things have been shaken up, but we're still in position to compete and compete at a high level.
So last comment on the draft before we move to current players. Kenny says Todd McShay just said his sources have Brady and Spytek taking Kelvin Banks at 6, passing on Genty and Membu, and he has Armon falling to us at 11.
Dude, if so, Membu I think is one of those players I'd make an exception for, as to like, it's not an immediate need. You know, Trent's already back in the building. He, at least for this year, we know he's not going to retire unless, you know, he changes his mind on that. But Membu, I think if he falls to a certain point, then I'm kind of wondering, you know, should the 49ers move up? I know I just said like they probably not worth it, but like Membu is one of those guys that I'd be interested in maybe making an exception for, depending on where that is. I'm not saying go to like 3 or something like that. You know, that's not necessary. But if he's there just a couple spots before you pick, it's, I don't know, that'd be tempting, I think.
Are you starting him at right tackle next year right away?
I mean, I'd give him that chance to compete, and I think the 49ers should too. But he didn't play right tackle; he played left, so that'd be an adjustment that'd be an adjustment for him. Some guys can make that, you know, switch a little easier than others can. But I'd like to see him compete there at the very least. I'd give him that shot.
So you mentioned Trent Williams. Rob D says Trent never attends voluntary activities. Him showing up worries me. Could he do a last-minute retirement?
Oh my God! Tell me you have anxiety without telling me you have anxiety. Like, legitimately.
Go ahead, Steph.
This is so funny, actually, because I wasn't worried about Trent retiring at all for like much of the last few months, and it wasn't until other 49er fans like were putting it in my head that like, yeah, like I know that he told John Lynch, or John Lynch told us that Trent said he was going to play this year, but what if he changed his mind? Why are they bringing in all these first round tackles in for visits? Like, so I started feeding into it too, and I guess in my own head I was just, some of these opinions just got to me. I'm not going to let this one get to me though, because I'm like, no, he's already there. He's not changing his mind. He doesn't need to show up in order to change his mind and retire. So Trent is playing this year at the very least. We need to speak then into it.
Yes. And
instead of all this other stuff of worrying about him retiring.
Yeah.
Well, I agree. But also if Trent said, hey, this is probably my last year, don't you start to bring in people so you get some time with the guru, the silverback, to like mentor someone for a little bit. Yeah, like I think Trent's fine this year. I don't think he would back out on playing if he already committed. But also now you're on the clock. You need to find a suitable replacement there. Come on.
Yep.
I think Trent is there now because he was hurt for much of the season last year.
Yeah.
So I think it's a matter of, hey, I'm doing well. Here I am. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Christian McCaffrey, although I think he would be there anyway. But there's a lot of comments. Yeah.
Just not to interrupt what you were about to say, but what are all those things, all of those guys that you just talked about have in common? What do they all have in common?
They don't have a ring.
Okay, well, outside of that, holy crap! I wasn't going to that point.
I mean, they don't have a ring. they're feeling good. They're competing. They want to show up because they
There
want
you
to
go.
be the
You just said it. You just made the point. They love football, right?
they're
They want
showing
to
up
show
because
up.
they want to be the best version. They want to be there. They
And they're
want to be
healthy
in
enough to be
football
there
shape,
and they're ready to do it.
home
So
ready.
like
Yes.
they're not mailing it in. And that's something that in this era of NIL is something that really needs to be watched. Do they really love football or do they just love that paycheck? Right? Like, because you can do pretty well off of that first 5 years of NFL stuff if you get drafted in the first round. And there have been a few guys that have like left here, and I don't think they're going to be playing anywhere else, so they're probably hopefully doing okay. But like it's one of those things to really like, do they love football? And if they were rebuilding, those guys wouldn't be here, and they'd have to come in and completely rebuild the culture. But the most of the culture guys, yeah, you lost Dre Greenlaw, but well, Fred Warner's still here, and George Kittle's still here. Like, yeah, George Kittle's not the voluntary ones, but like, they also moved, as I said in the group chat earlier, which I'll bring to light. They also moved WrestleMania 2 weeks back this year too, guys. Like normally that's right around the first week of April, and George Kittle's not missing WrestleMania. Okay, just like
And
we're
he
not
already
missing the
said
40. We're
first
not missing the
sources are
49ers
wrong.
game on Sunday. I promise you, George Kittle's not missing day 1 or day 2 of WrestleMania. Right? So no, like if it's voluntary, like he'll catch you later. Like he'll catch you outside. So
Yeah.
So I'm only going to say this once, but we are not rebuilding and our Super Bowl window has not closed.
No, it has not.
In thread. There you go.
thank you.
So there's a couple of Brock Purdy comments. Apparently there's an offer out there. He hasn't taken it. He's showed up to voluntary workouts. Steph, what does that mean to you?
To me, I think it's a good sign. It means a couple things, right? I think it's a sign of good faith, right? Like, that this is going in the right direction. And I think so. I also think like, Brock's the kind of guy that wants to be there, that is a leader for this team. And I almost think that it'll make the closing of this negotiation happen a little bit quicker as well. And I think he wants a resolution to this just as much as the 49ers do. Like, I don't think he wants this hanging over, his season. He's seen at this point, too many guys go down that route and seen how it's impacted them. And, I think he's confident he's going to get, an amount that he's going to be happy with. And also, he doesn't need to do all the extra stuff in order to feel like he's going to get that amount. So, and the 49ers know they couldn't mess around with, QB1 anyway. Like you need to have your leader of the locker room. You can't mess around with the quarterback position. And so I think, more than there has been in the past, there's like this mutual agreement between the both sides that we need to get this done and we'd like to get it done ASAP. So this is refreshing. I mean, I think hopefully it sets a precedent for other players that have, some negotiations in the future too, where it's like, hey, Brock Purdy showed up, and because he showed up, like they got the deal done even quicker. Like, maybe I should do that, when my time for a contract is up as well.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Like I would like for that to happen, but we also got this Kittle thing that who knows how long that'll go on. Although I don't think it's as bad as like the national media is making it out to be. I think they just like to squeeze the juice out of the 49ers contract negotiations, because at this point it's become like a subgenre of off-season content every single off-season for them. So they just keep tapping on that one. So I'm not worried about Kittle's contract in the slightest, but yeah, I think it's a good sign for Purdy. And I think Diana Rossini also said that, she thinks Purdy's deal will probably get done here pretty soon. So.
And no to Aaron Rodgers.
No to Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. Big no.
The Under the Helmet podcast, how about Kittle coming up big today? Yeah, Rossini said that he wants to be the highest paid tight end. There's been no trade requests, but teams are paying attention. And then he came out and said, your source is incorrect. I got to say with her, saying there's been no trade request, like it kind of put me back a little bit, even though it, just kind of like hearing those words. But Mayoko said that, George in the past has never showed up for voluntary workouts. So I don't know. Ty, what do you make of all this?
All right, let's talk about George first because he's the easiest. Everyone has known someone who doesn't like to go to meetings. Me, I'm that guy. I don't like to go to meetings. Like, send me an email, give me the Cliff's Notes. I don't have to attend a meeting, especially if I've been there a long time. George Kittle didn't want to attend a meeting. I don't blame him. What is he going to learn? Like, screw you. I'm busy. Like, it's a meeting. He doesn't have to be there. He's an all-pro player. He doesn't have to be there. So it's a non-issue. Somebody was waiting for one of our players not to show up to try to make it an issue. And we saw what happened. So that's it. George is chilling. He's recouping from WrestleMania. And if I had a choice to go to a Niners game versus a meeting, I'm going to the Niners game and not the meeting. So, George, I'm with you.
Just to kind of piggyback on what Ty just said there, somebody had a Canva template ready to go with Fred Warner, Brock Purdy, and George Kittle for whichever one of those players did not sign up for OTAs
1000%.
to rip that through their socials and get the stuff on it. Blah, 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 doesn't sign up. What does this mean for it doesn't show up? What does this mean for like
1000%.
You know how it goes. The buttons were all getting pushed.
Ty, before you get to Purdy, Steph, we know you have to go because you got another show. But thank you for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Steph.
Your insight is always appreciated, and thank you for everything you do. And enjoy the draft.
Oh,
Thank you.
wait! Before you go, do you have like a prediction? Like, do you have a vibe about who they're going to take? Do you think it's going to be Nolan?
I think there's like 3 players that would be on their list and that I would be happy with. And not well, okay, Shamar Stewart is one of those guys, and you guys know how I feel about that one. But my list of the 3 that I think it will be, and I don't know their order, right? But my order would be Mike Cal Williams, Walter Nolan, and Shamar Stewart. So those are my 3.
We're gonna write that down. Let's
All
go.
right. Thank you very much, my friend.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you guys. I'm about to do a show with Matt Barrows. So I know you guys have had Philly this off season as well. You guys have really great guests, and I love coming on the show. You guys have great vibes over here, so I appreciate you guys having me on. But yeah, enjoy the draft, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yep.
Thanks, Steph.
Enjoy it, Steph. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right,
Love
Steph Sanchez,
Steph.
awesome.
Way to go,
My cat loves Steph too. Like my cat.
Look at that.
Chilling, taking it all in.
That's
Taking
my
all the
cat,
notes.
Callie. She is very protective, and so that's just how it's going tonight. So she's making a cameo this evening.
All right,
So.
Ty, finish your thought on Purdy.
Yeah, and Purdy, he wants to be there. He loves being around the guys, and he's a leader. He'll show up. He has no reason not to show up. Like, even if it wasn't meetings, like let's go phase 2, when they actually get on the field and do stuff, he has no reason not to show up. Like, he doesn't. He doesn't. He just absolutely doesn't. So why wouldn't he? So, but I don't think he's more Diamador Lenore, Fred Warner than the other guys you're used to hearing about. And just keep that in your mind.
Becca?
Well, stepping back to George Kittle, I think George Kittle has always been outwardly, overtly honest. if he's in contract negotiations, he wears his emotions on his sleeve. He tells you exactly what he thinks, where he is, what's happening, and for him to step up today and go, "You're wrong." I thought that was a very good sign. I mean, I think George Kittle's going to be, at this point in his career, openly honest about where things stand or what's going on. So the fact that he didn't show up is not news, really not news. And to try and make it news, I think he was like, no, I'm going to call the BS out right now and put that to rest. So I appreciate that for him. That's just not a thing. And there's always people looking for clickbait and buzzworthy, news headlines to stir up some controversy. So,
Maddie, what do you think?
Is it wrong to just say I want this whole thing over with at this point? Like all of it,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
the whole
just
thing.
get it.
Yeah, we all do.
Like, but I think
I hate the
I
whole
think
season.
like honestly, like the whole off-season part of it, like I used to love it. I used to look forward to it.
Mhm.
But the stuff with the draft is ridiculous. We don't even know when the schedule is.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. Like, get some stuff rolling. Like, yeah, I know when the Hall of Fame game is. Lucky me. Like, come on. Let's get some of the stuff going, right? But like, it's that stuff. It's this.
Yeah, I
mean,
agree.
like, don't we understand that they're not going to move on any other contract extensions until the Brock Purdy stuff is done? Doesn't that
Uh-huh.
make sense? Isn't that
Yeah.
what the four of us in this room would expect, right?
Mhm.
Because that's how we would
That
do it.
drives
Like if we
everything
were
else.
running because everything is based off of that.
Exactly.
So why
You know
why
that. Why
is
make
this why is this some sort of shocking breaking news? Wow, George Kittle went to 2 nights of WrestleMania, didn't go to voluntary OTAs, and wow, Brock Purdy hasn't signed his deal yet, so George Kittle doesn't have one either. Also, Fred Warner doesn't have one. Oh wow, okay, like it just this is I used to despise the term clickbait, but that's really what it is at this point because it's one of those things where it's like we have the latest update on George Kittle. Okay, well, what's the latest update? Oh, he didn't show up, and he said in social media that the reporting's not right. And then the reporter went back and doubled down on the report. Oh, it's semantics. I don't know. I'm going to trust the source on this one, gang. Like
He's
George
telling
Kittle
you.
doesn't.
The actual
he's-
player.
Yeah.
This dude, like, there's certain people that I'm like, okay, like he's gonna semantic me, right? Like Aaron Rodgers would be a semantics guy.
Yes, Aaron Rodgers
Like,
will
he's-
throw you a lot of
He's
rhetoric
that
and
he's
BS.
that slimy Paul Heyman-y type of dude that's like, oh, I owe you a favor, and then he asks for the worst possible favor at the worst possible time, right? Like just the same sort of feel.
But George Kittle's not that guy. He goes,
He's not that guy. He is
No,
absolutely not
that's
that guy. He is
effing
like the
wrong.
most transparent,
It's not
honest. I don't ever remember
Because
George Kittle like lying. He's
breathing.
positive.
Yeah.
Like, nope. He's earned my trust on that scenario. He's not a bullshitter. So
Mhm.
And same with
like-
Fred Warner. Fred Warner's like,
Fred
it's
Warner's the
what you
same
did.
way.
I'm not worried about it. It's all good.
Yeah.
Like
Christian McCaffrey's the same way, right? Like they're all, that's what it
Yeah.
is. So
Exactly.
All right.
Trying to stir.
2-minute warning.
That was quick. God
Oof. 2-minute
Where is it?
warning.
damn it. Where am I? I'm all over the place.
we're all,
Yeah,
all
Becca.
over the place. I got you.
I know.
Oh, am I up?
Yep.
Happy birthday, Juice. Hope you had a great day. It's draft day. Woo, let's go. Let's see who we get. Hopefully they're impact players that were not rebuilding or just reloading. Pew, pew, pew. Go Niners.
Shout out to everybody in the chat. Thank you, Steph, for coming on.
Yes.
Always a great guest. If you haven't already done so, please like and subscribe. And enjoy the draft, faithful. And go Niners. Go ahead, Ty.
No more mock drafts. Woohoo!
Oh, mother of
Give up a
pearl.
long time
Bill
ago.
Walsh. No more
Oh.
mocks. I don't got to hear it no more. But the draft is here. Just sit back and enjoy. Please don't trade back because I go to bed early and I can't stay up much later. Like, that's just
That
me.
part.
And
I
also,
agree.
did you rush to social media and repost some BS, or did you stay faithful?
Yeah, Maddie.
Don't screw this pick up. I don't care who it is. No pressure, right? Like legitimately no pressure, but like
No pressure.
you gotta hit. And yeah, that's what it is. You gotta bat over 500 on this draft, really. Again, no pressure. And it's all because of like how this roster has been managed in recent years, and then how it's being reshuffled right now. Right? Like that's what this is about. So this is part of the process, and you just hope they get it right. And they've got it right before, and they haven't gotten it right before. So I'm trying to be optimistic, guys. I really am, but
Speak it into existence. Be
yeah,
positive.
Exactly.
I feel confident they're going to get somebody that I don't hate. That my
Just
concern
taking
is
a
they're going to
checker
get
out of
somebody, and we're all going to agree, and then that person's going to suck, right? And then if we all hate it, then it will be good. So
Nah,
we'll
everything will
see.
be
We'll see what
just
happens.
fine. It's an
Exactly.
important draft.
Fine. It's good.
We're going to do well. And we will see you next week, Faithful, to talk about it. Again, enjoy the draft. Go Niners. See you next week.
Go Niners! Woo!
See ya.
Bang, bang.
And of course, for the upstart 49ers, they're 6 yards away from Pontiac. 3rd and 3.
We'll see a pickup sometime on the right side, possibly.
Montana looking, throwing in the end zone.